mandated scrutiny as the evaporation process leads to real problems in both air and water quality. Again, another easy industry fix, mandating a closed-loop system could alleviate this problem. There are over 9,000 horizontal producing wells in the Barnett Shale and an unknown number of dry holes, disposal wells, or other types of wells. When updating the rules and regulations, EPA must analyze the cumulative impacts of large-scale development on air quality and water quality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Burke.
Thank you. Please accept my comments regarding exploration and production regulations. They're somewhat more general, although there are some specifics embedded in this, particularly with respect to air quality. I live in Arlington, within 3 blocks of the gas well located in Antigo, a small encircled town. The nearest residence to that well must be within 100 feet. Many others are easily within 200. Yes, in my home and my family, we do use natural gas. We use it to heat in the winter, to heat water, and I know that probably most of the electricity that I have to have in order to survive these summers. And maybe the coffee pot and some other things in my life. But nevertheless, we have been conservationists for 40 years. I sweep my driveway and sidewalks. I do not use the electric door. I do not use these things where there are reasonable alternatives. And I also want to point out, though, that any business plan has 2 paramount things: maximize profits and minimize costs. It is imperative under such a system that there be a government agency charged with acting in the interest of the public to see that the industries play fair. Industry must operate to ensure that the product is safe, that there is no harm to humans or other species, no harm to the air, water, and land. Else, we are in essence consuming our seed corn. We are drilling ourselves into oblivion. This industry operates in many states, hence it is EPA's primary jurisdiction is essential. Many of us had hoped that environment would have been a cabinet position, and it is a shame that it hasn't happened, because our environment determines what our lives, our country, indeed our planet is going to be. It's up to you to be the People's Protection Agency. You must strengthen the oil and gas industry, its procurement methods, its emissions distribution, its water use, and then what is done with that water afterwards. Indeed, the water issue in shale gas drilling is integral to air emissions issues. Everything is connected to everything else in this whole business. With the frack water, trucking it off requires evaluating the air pollution caused by the trucks. Distilling the product puts various chemicals back in the air. There is no cheap way. There is no honor in cutting corners. We need to produce energy from petroleum products, but we must do it in a safe way. The industry pleads that they are just trying to keep the cost low for the consumer. So which do we, the consumers, want? Health or cheap? For we who care about the long-term future of our earthly home, we insist on health, safety, a proud future, not a degraded planet. The cost of safety and health must be borne. Then perhaps there won't be the colossal waste of petrochemical products that we see about us. The industry's owners and lobbyists who don't hesitate to donate the profits to political candidates should not be the determiners of what to do. Remember, those 2 tenets of any business plan are to maximize profits and minimize costs. None of my 3 elected persons in Congress represent my issues and my viewpoints. I am a lone soul when it comes to the U.S. Congress. Thank you. We citizens are dependent. Please represent us.
industry would pay the cost of these things for all of us who require them because they ain't cheap. They don't
Esther McElfish and Libby Willis, please.
Well, good evening again. Esther McElfish, and I'm president of the North Central Texas Communities Alliance. And we're an alliance of individuals, organizations, and communities throughout the entire Barnett Shale area. We formed in 2009 because there was a real need for this. One of the things I really want to emphasize to you, and you'll hear this as a recurring theme from all the folks tonight, the citizens that come before you, is this is an overwhelming problem. And as individuals and even as organizations and communities, we can't deal with this and go up against the big behemoth. It's the gorilla, and it's a David and Goliath situation. We're not anti-drilling, and I think from what you've heard from people tonight, we understand about the energy source, but this is not about jobs. This is not about money into the economy. That's a moot point when it comes to us not being able to breathe and have our health and have a safe and sound future for our children. So one of the reasons that we need you here is what I call the pass-off game. And anybody in this room who lives around in this area can tell you what I'm talking about. You go to your local official, Calvin Tillman being the exception, and you go to your local mayor and council member and you say, this is our problem, or they're going to drill here, we don't want it, it's 175 or 200 feet from our house, or like Deborah Rogers says, it's close to her business and her home. And the council says, gee, nothing we can do. We rely on the state for the regulations. Then you go to the state, and the TCEQ or any of the state regulators are no help, because they might take the report, but then they either sit on it, and it's all just like Tim Ruggiero. He'll tell you that there are reports that he made in March of this year, and nothing has been done. They call repeatedly, they email repeatedly, they talk to officials. It's somewhere off in the bureaucratic mill. So they sit on it, or the other scenario is we can't do anything, it's up to the feds. So we're very glad that you're here tonight, because I'm not going to talk technical data. There are people that are far more knowledgeable than I am. I'm going to give you some practical things that we hear from the boots on the ground from people out there in the field. That we don't have the money or resources, and just like Deborah Rogers said, people should not have to bear that burden. The burden of proof should be on the industry. And when I see a 6-year average of Aubrey McClendon making, God bless him, $27.5 million a year, and last year it was $300 million plus, I don't begrudge the man his income, goodness knows. But I hate to hear the industry whining about we cannot afford to do this and have vapor recovery and have the collections. It is the cost of doing business. You know, if I go to build a house, I'm saddled with the burden of paying the fees, and I'm paying the contractors, and I'm paying the regulatory fees out the wazoo. It's up to the industry to pay the cost of doing business, just like any other industry. So yes, maybe there's jobs and taxes. I mean, God knows in Fort Worth we got a $73 million deficit that they're facing, and you want to say, where the heck are those gas drilling revenues when you need them? But now, we want to know that you all are going to come in and do something to protect the citizens, truly protect us. Because when they play this pass-off game, we're helpless. We just flounder out there. And here's the other part of this. Right now, we're dealing with the A players. We've got XTO, which, God bless them, they were bought out by Exxon, not a small company. They'll be around for a while. But Chesapeake, large company. But then we get into the B players that are coming into the game, and then it's the C players. And I promise you within the next 5 years, we're going to see a whole different lineup of people we're dealing with. And you know as well as I do from this information that you presented earlier, that those pipelines are going to erode, And there's corrosion that takes place through this whole process. On the fracking process, we've got a multitude of problems with the water and the seepage already, and there are many people who can give you examples here tonight. So we're not only looking at the immediate, but we're looking at down the way what we're passing along to our children and grandchildren. And when you've got the B and C players that come along who really don't care, who said, somebody else did that back 10 years ago. So we have to put into place right now and be proactive and have the regulations that are really going to protect us now. You know, I find it really interesting that you can go to any of these sites and there's a sign there that says, please do not smoke. Does that tell you anything? That maybe there's a little danger involved? We hear it all the time with examples of citizens who are concerned about their children. And the industry says, gee, it's not our fault. When we have leukemia showing up in greater numbers with children in Flower Mound, it didn't just happen overnight when there's a cluster of children in that area, and the industry will tell you that's anecdotal evidence. How in the world are we supposed to all pay for these studies and things that prove that? We can't. We individual citizens cannot. So it is imperative that you come in and put the tough regulations, and we mean tough regulations. This is not going to put industry out of business. You know, the cement... We are all fed up with hearing that, and quite frankly, just like Gary Organ, our vice president, mentioned, you go to fill up your gas, it says don't smoke, and there's a vapor recovery system, and I get saddled, and you get saddled, we all get saddled with those fees on our car. I can't drive that vehicle unless I meet those certain emission standards, thank goodness. So that's just on a larger scale going to have to be the cost of doing business. The other thing is, and this is a tough thing because it's a cultural thing in Texas, and I don't know how much time you all have spent here, but one of the tough things that we came up against originally was people would say, well, my daddy and my granddaddy grew up in West Texas, and it was no problem out there. They were around those rigs, and nobody ever suffered or got sick. Well, yeah, and it wasn't in your backyard, 100 or 200 feet from your house, as we have in the urban areas. There wasn't the complexity of 800 to 1,300 average trucks for the fracking process for any one drilling rig. In a neighborhood right now, less than a mile from my house, Chesapeake's pushing to approve a well, and that's going to mean 800 to 1,300 trucks with the fracking water, the fluid coming through our neighborhood. That was not the case out in West Texas in the wide open spaces. So we've got a different ballgame on our hands now, and that's why we need for you to tighten up the regulations and make it applicable to the new situation that we're dealing with now in the urban areas, and protecting our kind friends out here in the counties who are even less protected, God bless them. I thank God for people like Calvin Tillman, who has brought this to the fore, Tim Regario, whose family, he didn't say this, but 10 acres. And Canna came in, they have destroyed 4 acres of it. They had horses they can no longer have right there and have to board them someplace else. Their property value has gone down totally, about half. And that well is sitting 200 feet outside their doorstep. They went out into a more rural area to have the good life. And that nice $250,000 house on that property with the compressor station and the well, that sure is not what they had in mind. So that's why, and they have less protections than we have out in the county. So right now, we've got archaic rules that were built for an industry 20, 30, 40 years ago in Texas. And we need for you all to step up to the plate and do whatever it takes to protect us now. Tighten it up, and we will back you all the way. Thank you so much.